So Fox is reporting that Mueller's lawyer buildup has raised flags for Trump allies. The article says Special Counsel Robert Mueller is said to be building out his investigative team with some of the country's best legal minds, in a development that speaks to the seriousness of the Russia probe, but is also raising red flags on the pro-Trump side. First of all, it's absolutely hilarious how they say the seriousness of the Russia probe. It's only serious in the eyes of Democrats and the media and just the establishment in general. It's only serious in their eyes. And of course there are about like half of Democrats that drank the Kool-Aid and they actually believe the whole Russia thing. About half of them. But this whole idea that it's a serious thing, it's a serious thing to you guys. It's not serious to anybody else. Nobody else buys it. Nobody else buys this whole Russia thing, by the way. I mean, it's only senators and Congress people and the media people and all of the establishment people. They're all fully into this Russia thing, but nobody else is. Nobody else is sitting at home right now. They like to think that this is like Watergate 2.0. That this is what's gonna bring up their credibility again. The media. They think this is gonna bring up their credibility again. So they report on it and they try and make it seem like, oh, it's a Watergate 2.0, because they look back at those days. They say, oh man, Watergate. That was back when we had the most faith in media, was when Watergate was going on. And everyone was saying, oh man, the media is so great. Watchdog on Nixon and all of the, corrupt politicians. They were all getting so much praise. And now, nobody trusts them anymore. Nobody trusts anybody in the media anymore. Nobody has any faith in cable news, even a lot of internet news. Nobody has any trust whatsoever in any of these people. These people they have no idea what they're doing. They get it wrong so many times on so many different issues. They get so many things wrong, and their predictions and their polls, and it's all just completely just ridiculous and fake and wrong. So they have no faith, they have no trust. Nobody trusts in the media anymore. So the media, they build up this whole Russia thing and they say, oh yeah, Russia, Russia, Russia. It's Watergate 2.0. They try and build it up like that because they think that people will see that and they'll say, oh, the media, bravo to the media. They're keeping the people in check. They're keeping politicians in check. They're going to look out for guys like me. They're going to look out for the little guy. They're going to report on the issues that matter. But Russia isn't an issue that matters. Russia isn't a threat to democracy, okay? Russia isn't this big evil empire that's gonna take the entire West down. It's not gonna happen. I talk about Russia all the time because they want to be taken seriously again. They want to be considered to be like real news again. People like outlets like BuzzFeed. Since when has BuzzFeed ever been a legitimate news outlet? But for some reason, they've been accepted as one. The same people that make YouTube videos about people trying out martinis and quizzes about, oh, which celebrity are you? These are people that are now considered real news outlets. These are the people who came up with the Trump dossier a while back. That's still news now. You believe that? The whole dossier is still news now. How crazy is that? The dossier that was completely wrong. It was made by a Hillary staffer who was a former British intelligence agent. He made this dossier, it had basic spelling and grammatical errors. It had geographical errors in it. And it said that Vladimir Putin had a videotape of Donald Trump at a hotel in Russia getting peed on by prostitutes. That was his big claim. That was a Hillary campaign thing, and of course, the Hillary campaign never brought that up. You know why they didn't bring that up? Because it was too ridiculous, even for Hillary Clinton to say. All the things she accused Donald Trump of doing. She said, "Oh, Donald Trump, he's a rapist, he's racist, he's this and that." All of the things that she said about him, she wouldn't bring up the dossier because it was too ridiculous, even for her. Even for her, it was too far out there. So this comes around, BuzzFeed, they pick it up. BuzzFeed reports on it and they say, "Oh, this is..." They show you the dossier, and then instead of giving their opinion on it, they say, "Oh, well, this is, we're gonna let the readers decide. We're gonna let the readers decide what they think about it." What the hell? What is that? Since when has that ever been? Now look, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to say, "Oh, we're we're giving people the option, you know, because we're trying to be objective. We're trying to be objective. It's not objective to publish a blatantly fake dossier to try and defame a certain person. In this case, it was Donald Trump. I mean, they do a whole load of other things to defame people. But that's not being objective. That's throwing it out there. And, you know, if you were real news, you would say, oh, this is crazy, it's ridiculous, and you would point out where they were wrong, and where there's no evidence or no substance, you would point that out, but instead, you just throw it out there and say, oh, choose for yourself. You know, you want to believe it, maybe. You want to believe it, you want to not believe it, it's fine. That would be like turning on your TV and seeing CNN report an essay by a flat earther and say, oh yeah, guys, let me read this to you on air. Let me read this essay by this flat earther, and we'll let you guys decide. We'll let you guys decide if you want to believe it or not. Who does that? No one actually does that. BuzzFeed does that because they have an agenda and because they don't really want to. They want to avoid being called fake news by saying, oh, well, we never said it was real. We just put it out there and said, hey, guys, you know, choose for yourself. Is it real or is it not? You guys can figure that out on your own. Except you can't. As a reader, you can't figure that out on your own because you don't have the resources. The reason that we're supposed to have journalists is because they have resources to get the facts and get the information. So they're the ones that are meant to give you the information and the answers and the facts. You can't just throw things out there and say, oh, readers, you can figure it out on your own. Because they can't figure it out on their own because they have no resources. What are they going to do? They're going to contact the guy? They're going to contact the man who made the dossier and say, oh, tell me about these claims and what you said here, here, and here. They don't have the resources to do that. They can't do that. So the idea that you're putting it out there for people to read, for them to make up their own minds, is just totally. I mean, it's just a nonsense excuse, and I don't even want to hear anything about it. You know, I don't even want to hear anything about it. Anyway, let's keep on going. So former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, citing the hires, said they're setting up to go after Trump. This is going to be a witch hunt, Gingrich said on Fox News Sunday. So he says, plainly, this is going to be a witch hunt. Newt Gingrich, I absolutely applaud you for that. Newt, I absolutely applaud you for taking such a principled stand. I mean, this is something. Why can't the whole party be saying this? Why do we have to have people like Paul Ryan? Paul Ryan, who comes out and says, Donald Trump, in his little talks with Comey, he was wrong, but he did it because he was inexperienced. What kind of defense is that, Paul Ryan? What kind of defense is that? Why can't you come out and say, no, there's no wrongdoing? Saying you hope isn't a demand. If you go to someone and say, oh, I hope it's colder tomorrow, are they gonna say, oh my God, this guy just demanded me to go and change the weather for him? No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. Saying that you hope something isn't a demand. So there's nothing inappropriate about that. There's nothing wrong about saying, oh, I hope you can let this guy go, because he probably does. Because him and Flynn were at least somewhat close, because, you know, he hired Flynn to be on the job, and he had Flynn on the campaign. So they had to have been at least somewhat close. So when you're close to somebody, it's not wrong, it's not unreasonable to say, oh, I hope you let this guy go. Because it just makes sense. Like, yeah, he's your friend. You hope he's found innocent. You hope that he's found, you know, that he didn't do anything wrong. You hope that, because he's your friend, and it makes sense. And even Comey said it wasn't a directive. It didn't seem to me like it was an obstruction of justice. He said that it felt like a directive, which makes no sense because it's not a direction, it's a hope. It's just saying, I hope. So hope isn't anything. And then Comey said, oh, it was a directive, but I didn't follow it, so you know. But it's not a directive if you just don't follow it. If you're directed by your boss, because Donald Trump is technically your boss, if you're directed by your boss to do something, and you don't do it, well then, I mean, what happens? I mean, you end up losing your job. And Comey did lose his job. But here's the thing. Do you think that it was because of Flynn? No, it was because of the whole overarching Russia thing. It was because of the whole, like, he wouldn't let it go. And he refused to get the actual facts. And he refused to come out and say, look, we have no evidence. Like, absolutely everybody else has. Everyone else has said, no evidence, no evidence, no evidence. Everyone else says that. Comey wouldn't say that. He said, oh yeah, it's guaranteed. He said at the hearing, he was like, oh yeah, there's no question that Russia tried to meddle in our election. There's no question about it. No question. No question, James Comey. If there's no question, then why can't you just prove it? If it's so obvious, if it's so obvious, then why can't you just prove it and show us what the evidence is? They've been saying it for so long. This has been going on since 2015. He said it in the hearing. He said, yeah, we've known about Russia and election meddling since 2015. Summer of 2015. It's almost been 2 years. It's been 2 years. It's been 2 years. And throughout the entire time, they've never come out and given us any kind of evidence. They've given us speculation and vague, broad statements like, oh yeah, Putin's a bad guy, and he has technology, and, you know, and he doesn't like Hillary, so, duh, right, duh, I mean, duh, right, duh. You can use that same logic and apply it to any election ever. You can say that, you know, Angela Merkel hacked the British election because, you know, she probably doesn't like Theresa May that much. She probably likes Jeremy Corbyn a little bit more, and she has technology, so you know, put it together. I mean, you know, Germany hacked the election pretty much. I mean, it's right. I mean, duh, obviously they did, right? Obviously, it's the same logic, and yet they just don't realize that. They don't realize that they don't have anything to back them. They act like they do. They act like they have all of the evidence in the world. They act like they have everything. And yet they refuse to give us anything. They always say, oh, it's inappropriate. We'll give you the evidence later. Later. It's been later for a long time now. When's it going to come out? When is it going to come out? They always say, oh, we have information and we have evidence, but, you know, we can't show you. So if you can't show us, how do we know it's real? There's no way to know that it's real unless you show us. You can't just show up to a court case and say, oh, we had evidence that this guy's guilty, but we can't show it to you. You can't do that. No one can ever do that. That's not a thing. That's not a thing that happens. You can't just declare them guilty without presenting any evidence for it. So it's ridiculous. It makes no sense. They're so secretive about it too. They're so secretive. They have their classified hearings. They do all these things behind closed doors. They want to talk about transparency. Democrats, they talk about transparency. They say, oh, the Trump administration, there's no transparency. There's no transparency in your whole Russia sham. Your whole sham of investigation. There's no transparency at all. You guys always say, oh, we have evidence, but we just can't show it. And then you have your secret hearings and your secret meetings, and you do all your things in secret. You can't tell us what you're doing. What are you guys doing? How do you get your evidence? What is your evidence? What are you guys doing? It doesn't make any sense. They say, oh, we can't tell you. Well, if you can't tell us, then we're not going to believe you. It's innocent until proven guilty. And there's been no proof of any guilt. So, as in our eyes, Vladimir Putin and Russia, they're innocent because you haven't been able to prove guilt at all. You just came out and said, oh yeah, Russia hacked the election. We have proof, but we just can't show you. Alright, let's move on. Let's move on to collusion now. Let's move on to collusion. They've moved on. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't have a murder case where you show no evidence that a certain person did it, and then just start charging their friend because you think that they took part in it. You can't do that, because you couldn't prove the murder in the first place. If there was no murder at all, you couldn't even prove the murder. So how are you going to prove the conspiracy? It's the same logic. How are you going to prove Trump-Russia collusion if you can't even prove that there was any election hacking to begin with? You can't just jump steps. You can't just do that. So this whole thing is just a sham, and it's just a travesty. I mean, it's just an embarrassment to the country that this whole thing has been going on for so long, and it just doesn't end, and it's like tearing us apart. It's tearing the whole country apart. Everyone's saying, "Oh, Russian agent, Russian agent, Russian agent," and it's ridiculous. How is this still news? How is this even still a thing? It's been going on for so long, and it's an embarrassment to the country that this is still going on. It's ridiculous. Anyway, we have more from the article. So Newt Gingrich has called for Mueller's probe to be shut down, claiming that it's not truly independent. Gingrich, why can't we have more people like you? Why can't we have more people out there like Newt Gingrich? I mean, Newt Gingrich, he's coming out there, and he's just telling the truth at this point. I mean, he's telling the truth. This isn't independent. This is a politically motivated investigation. It has no backing, no evidence. It's all just to try and take down Trump and try and say, "Oh, Trump is a Russian agent." And it's all they're doing. If they want us to believe that this is a nonpartisan, independent thing, they need to come out and say, they need to come out and they need to reaffirm, they need to assure us that that the election wasn't stolen, and they need to shame Democrats for making it into that thing. Because they have all the Democrats, Hillary Clinton, all the top Democrats, even the Democratic base, the 50%, they're all saying, "Oh, the election was stolen from us. Oh, Trump, not my president. He's a Russian agent, Russian puppet." If you want to prove that this isn't political, then go out and denounce them. Denounce them for making all these claims about, "Oh, rigged election, stolen election." But they don't do that. You know why they don't do that? Because it is politically motivated and it is partisan. This isn't an independent, non-partisan investigation. It's completely partisan, it's completely political, and it's a travesty, and it's a disaster, and it's a real shame and a real mess. And it needs to end. It needs to end fast.